A computer is made up of many different parts that all have to work together to process any input and produce any output. There are two different components in any computer that must work together: the hardware and the software. The hardware is the physical parts of a computer that you can touch, change, or replace. The software is the programs and applications that use the hardware to perform a task. They are a set of instructions that tell the hardware what to do. We are going to start by looking at some of the hardware parts that are in most computers. When a computer gets information from the input or from a program that needs to be stored for a long period of time, that information gets sent to the hard drive. The hard drive is a device that stores programs and information to be retrieved at a later date. Most hard drives involve a spinning disk that stores the bits of information as positive or negative electrical charges, zeros and ones, that computers can read and interpret. Different types of hard drives can store different amounts of this information. Some important features of a hard drive are the storage size, how much information can it store, the read speed, how fast can it get or read that information, and the write speed, how fast can it store or write that information. A new type of hard drive that many computers are now using is called a solid-state drive, or SSD for short. This usually has less storage room than a regular hard drive, but much faster read and write speeds. This means that information for programs can be accessed much faster than on a regular hard drive. Another device that stores and retrieves data in the computer's memory is called RAM. If the hard drive is the long-term memory of a computer, the RAM, or random access memory, is the short-term memory. This is the place where a computer performs small calculations and puts small pieces of information that it is going to need right away. This does not have nearly as much storage space as a hard drive, because the information that goes here does not get permanently stored in the RAM. It is quickly there to do a calculation and then goes out to be used. The more RAM a computer has, the more programs it can run at once, because it is able to handle more calculations and more requests to do things with information at the same time. Once a computer or device is turned off, any calculations that are currently in the RAM will be gone. The CPU, which stands for Central Processing Unit, is like the brain of the computer. It receives many instructions from the computer and decides where it needs to go. It processes these instructions and sends them to the correct place to be stored, calculated, displayed, or even sent elsewhere. The faster the CPU, the more things it can process and manage at once. The speed of the CPU is measured in gigahertz, where each gigahertz represents a billion instructions that the processing unit can manage every second. Often, a program has many requests that it is trying to do all at the same time. The operating system, which is a program, will decide what processes are the most important and prioritize which ones get solved first. Some CPUs take these requests one at a time, like a single-file line, while other CPUs use a process called hyperthreading to manage several requests at the same time, like multiple lines. They split the CPU into several smaller sections called cores, which each act like their own separate CPU. The motherboard is the connecting place between all the different devices. It connects the hard drives to the RAM, to the CPU, and many more devices. It also provides a connection from the input devices to the output devices, which all get channeled through the CPU. The motherboard acts as a roadway, and sometimes a highway, to get information from one device to another device. The power supply delivers power to run the different devices. It transforms the power from a wall outlet or a battery into useful power for the different devices in a computer. Some internal devices are connected directly to the power supply, while others are connected to the motherboard, which receives its power from the power supply. Each device in a computer takes power, and the more powerful the device is, the more watts of power they are going to need in order to run.